listen, everyone, we have a couple of big topics to get into. One is kind of going to be a continuation of what happened earlier this week, but with some additional context that has ecstasies and even Tom Warren very concerned about PC Game Pass, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to break down that story, and this could be, and again, folks, it is a rumor, more salt to the wound for Xbox, a potential another self-inflicted wound. And again, as of this morning, there has been no conversation from the brass. I have not heard anything or seen anything myself from Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, Matt Booty, or even Aaron Greenberg. I have seen it's been radio silence for the Xbox bigs, and for good reason. Obviously, everyone is angry. And again, folks, I just want this to be clear before we get into the introductions and we start talking about the two big topics. This isn't a witching party. This isn't or a witch hunt, I should say. I don't have behind me, the torches and pitchforks. I understand that for some, there is value here. And for me personally, as many games as I play out of the service, yes, it is still valuable. That's not the point, though. And I know there are people that have DM'd me, who have messaged me. There are people in the chat right now that are, they're not yelling. They're like, hey, boom, it's valuable because this is what games are going to cost at some point. Listen, folks, I do this 5 days a week, and I technically work on the show 7 days a week. You have no idea how I understand. But from a consumer's point of view, like I've been saying, it's bad optics. So before I get into a very interesting thought and theory, I want to welcome in Silent Cypher. What's going on, brother? How you doing? Welcome back.
Good morning. Great to be with you guys. It's been a couple weeks, but yeah, it's should be an interesting conversation. I see everyone already blowing up in the chat, so good to see some familiar faces. Fuzzy, great to be hanging out with you as well, sir. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation. It's going to get spicy, I'm sure. I'm sure some people are going to get in their feels somewhere because someone always does. But yeah, let's get into it.
Here's the thing. I am not going to lead by emotion. I like to consider myself a leader in the Xbox community, one that is and promotes positivity, right? I like I said, I like getting pointed because I'm trying to drive home a point without being reckless about it, without saying, without using curse words, without being that emotional gamer. And I think I do a pretty good job with that, to be honest with you. And I don't really toot my own horn very often, but this is one of those conversations where I know there's going to be some folks in the chat, Fuzzy, that are tired of hearing about it because it's negative and it's negative news. But it's not negative propaganda that we're trying to push here. We're trying to have a conversation that we hope somebody in the bigs are listening to. They're not going to listen to the people who drop 6 F-bombs in one sentence. That's not how you get their attention. How you get their attention is by talking about it the way we're going to talk about it today. And again, we do have some additional information that is concerning. And it's concerning because some of the people that I lean on for information, like the Tom Warrens, the Tom Hendersons, the Jez Cordons, and the ecstasies of the world, are concerned. And if they're concerned, then I'm concerned. And I'm hoping that if I'm concerned, you're going to have to, you're going to want to hear about our concern. But so I did an experiment, ladies and gentlemen, right before we went live. And I did something that I enjoy doing. And I asked AI a very specific question. So let me get into my notes, which I don't normally do on my phone, folks. You know how I feel about that. But I asked Google specifically, if a company raises their streaming service by 50%, how will customers react? Right? That's what I asked. And why I like asking AI human-based questions like that is because you're going to get a very straightforward robotic answer with no emotion attached to it. You're usually going to get information that is straight and to the point. So I want to read some factors here that goes to show you where Microsoft as a corporation and Xbox as a platform might actually find themselves in a bit of hot water. So when I asked that question, the first thing that came up is this. A 50% price increase for a streaming service would likely lead to a significant number of customer cancellations, as customers are sensitive to what they call streamflation, or the rising cost of subscriptions. However, the exact response depends on several factors, including the service's perceived value content and and the competitive landscape that it's in. So here is a small piece of information that kind of goes in line with why the website for canceling your Xbox Game Pass is still down. Right, still down since it launched because it's being slammed. Well, let me just read some more bullet points here, folks. Factors influencing customer responses. This is what it has to say: price elasticity and churn. A 50% hike is a large increase that would test the price elasticity of demand for streaming services. Surveys have shown that smaller 20% increases would cause more than half of subscribers to either cancel or downgrade their plans. The potential for churn at the rate at which customers cancel would be significant, as evidenced by the massive subscriber backlash and calls for boycotts that followed a recent 50% hike for a gaming service. Who are they referring to? You know what? I don't know. Is this someone an X maybe? Well, that's the response, folks. Now, let me just read a little bit more because I don't want it to be one-sided. I want it to be an open-ended conversation. It says perceived value and content for customers. The decision to stay or leave comes down to the perceived value. Exclusive content, a strong library of exclusive high-demand original programming gives a service more pricing power and makes some subscribers less likely to churn. Content fatigue. If customers feel that there is a lack of fresh, engaging content, they will be less willing to pay a higher price. Many streaming services have seen an increase in churn as subscribers weigh the cost against the value of the content being provided. And lastly, there are two additional bullet points. Let me read those, and we're going to, open this up to conversation. The competitive environment. The growing number of streaming options means that customers may have many substitutes to choose from. And lastly, subscription fatigue. The average household has multiple streaming services, and the rising cost is leading many customers to cut back. Now, gentlemen, I love to bring into the conversation Destin Legary. I like Destin a lot. I enjoyed how he conducted himself while he was at IGN. I didn't always agree with him. He has done some things in the past that got him in, a bit of hot water with the Xbox community specifically. And then was it last year or the year before, he decided that he was going to go out on his own, which was a balls of steel moment for him. Going out on your own, leaving a job like IGN that pays you a salary to talk about video games, and your insurance, your health insurance, not just for yourself, but for Destin's family, was as risky as I think I've ever seen in a long time, considering, ladies and gentlemen, the world that we currently live in. So, of course, when he went independent, I immediately jumped onto his Patreon, and I have been a supporter ever since because I like the content he puts out. Well, he's been keeping his finger on the pulse of Xbox gaming for quite a while. And one of the things I appreciate about Destin Legary is his human side. Like, he's a very transparent man. He talks about his family, talks about his wife, his kids, his business. And I'm not saying that we're identical, but you know me already. I'm Mr. Transparent. I walk around, I'm as clear as glass. I don't hide anything. I am who you thought I was. There's no surprises. Well, he put out a tweet yesterday that I thought was pretty good. I want to read it, and I want to use it as a part of the conversation that we're about to have. He goes on to say this, ladies and gentlemen. It turns out my ultimate tier of Game Pass had lapsed 2 months ago. As a busy dad with limited game time, 360 a year it just doesn't make sense right now. Will be sad to see it go. I also dropped PlayStation Plus a while back, so this isn't really unique to Xbox. I just don't console game as much. I'm always on PC these days, and I'm a penny pincher in parentheses. If I ever need the service, I just turn it on for a month at the lowest tier these days. It is what it is. I'm cheap, and the value proposition just isn't really there for me personally. If I want a game, I'll just buy it or subscribe for a month as needed. TLDR, $30 a month is simply too much. Now, granted, is anybody in the chat going to agree with Destin? That's entirely up to you. And again, for a lot of new listeners, we're going to have some here that are going to see this title. They're going to look at it. They're going to be like, oh, hey, I got to go check this out. Well, you're not going to get that here. The burning Game Pass logo is, well, that's really what it is. The Game Pass is burning right now. Xbox is burning. It's on fire. Is it going to burn down to the ground? I don't think so. But it's just bad news all around. I'm sorry. It just is. Am I going to be overly dramatic or emotional? I'm not. Listen, folks, I like being clear with you folks. And I talk about this all the time. I just re-upped the day of the announcement. And I had no idea the announcement was coming. I simply told you my plan. My plan is when I get down to 33 months, I buy a 3-month card. And I bring back up to 36 months, which is the most you can have. I do that for peace of mind. I do that because I'm a retiree. And as much as I can afford to pay $30 a month, I don't want to. And you shouldn't if you are a good consumer. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to look Xbox in the face and be like, yes, $30, give it to me. Don't worry about the Vaseline. It's good. I'm good. Right? Pause. Right? You don't do that as a consumer. You try to get the best deal. I mean, look at Hargeet, for instance, who I absolutely adore. He's an incredible human being, very generous man. And he has enough Game Pass to 2030. We are in 2025 still. He has Game Pass paid up at less than $16 a month until the cows come home, ladies and gentlemen. That's how you consumer. That's how you win. So it's, look, you know what? Let me. This is going to be one of those open-ended conversations because you heard a little bit of what Fuzzy had to say because he was nice enough to jump on the breaking news special. And of course, this is the first time that we're hearing, from Silent Cypher. So of course, I want to get his, original take, his thoughts, and because we've had some time to sit on it a little bit, I want the chat heavily involved. Again, your opinions matter to me, and I hope our opinions are going to matter to you. But one of the things that brought us right back to this conversation is something that I had put into the chat for us. Now, this comes the way of ecstasies. Now, ecstasies for you personally, once again, your mileage is going to vary. I've told you this before, and I'll say it again. I know him personally. We talk on a regular basis. He's been on the show a few times. I mean, I can't fly out to Spain to hang out with the guy in his house. I don't know him like that, but I know him enough to believe that he has connections that are valuable. He has opinions that are even more valuable. And when he does talk, if you followed him as long as I have, he doesn't recklessly throw things out there for hoping that he's going to steal some subs from someone else. He's not that type of content creator. Now, if you don't think so, and you think otherwise, I'm not going to fight with you folks. Think how you want to think. But he put out a tweet, and I want to read it verbatim. And it says, I don't like anything I just read in Tom Warren's notepad today. Now, if you don't know who Tom Warren is, well, Tom Warren is a journalist. He's a really good one. Writes for The Verge and has a paid for or paywalled news feed like a lot of the bigs do. Like, again, I talk about me being a fan of like Daniel RPK, for instance. He's a tradesman for all the MCU news. He has a paywall, Patreon thing that a lot of people pay for. Now, I don't pay for it because, again, it's just extra stuff I just really can't afford to pay for. I can't keep adding because the paychecks, the pension isn't going up anytime soon. The cost of living, the COLA increase that we get every couple of years ain't cutting the mustard. So I'm not going to be adding streaming service after streaming service, and then, of course, be paying for other people's Patreons. I support a lot of people behind the scenes. I can't support everyone. But the Tom Warren's notepad is exactly that. If you are a Patreon, you get a chance to get the information before he writes it and drops it on The Verge. And of course, he's a businessman. He's trying to make money. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, this is what Tom Warren had to say in this notepad. It says, I have the feeling that it won't be long before there are more changes to PC Game Pass. Microsoft didn't mention the PC Game Pass price increase in its blog this week. It seems inevitable that over time it will remove, check this out, folks, the day one games to PC Game Pass, just as it did with console subscribers last year. Now, I'm going to tell you this. The old price for PC Game Pass, which gets you everything that Ultimate gets you, except having to pay for online, because you don't pay for online with your PC. You just don't. So it was originally $11.99. It is now $16.50, which is still the best deal of all Game Pass, because if you are someone like Hargeet Chani, and I use him, specifically, he doesn't care about playing on PC because he is rocking a $5,000 rig. He has the best of the best of the best. He can afford to do that. Awesome for him, right? He talks about playing on his 5090 all the time. For console people like myself, who I have the money, folks, I can go out and buy a 5090 pre-built right now. I don't want to do that. I just really don't. I like consoles. I don't care about being a pauper or a commoner. I'll be the console commoner. It's okay. But let's bring in Silent Cypher. Let's get your original thoughts on this, because again, when you just, and again, I'm trying to simplify it, folks, as just bring it down to its bare knuckles. Bring it down to the studs, if you will. If you're a construction guy or gal, you know what I'm talking about. This is one of the worst rake stepping moments, in my personal opinion, since Donnie D's 2013 F up. I think it's as bad. And I think it's as bad because messaging about being the greatest and best place to play and play anywhere and play with your friends and the most affordable service, or all of the things that they've been telling us for the last year or so, have been completely washed away by an increase that could have easily been as much as $5. If you really needed to increase the price, $5 would have gotten some pushback, would have gotten some smoke, because no consumer is going to be like, yep, give it to me. I'm good. I'm ready. But again, it's not the $10 that is as bad as when you go out and report Game Pass has been raised by 50%. That is how it's being reported. That is how it's being perceived. Now, again, I want this to be clear. If you're in the chat and $10 is meaningless to you, I want to give you a pat on the ass. Congratulations. But I don't want you to run ragged with that and be like, listen, if you are unaffected by price, I am going to always root for you. I'm going to congratulate you. What I do not like is when you only think of yourself. Don't be a selfish human. There's enough of that going on in the world. Let's stop for a second and say, I'm good with the $10. And I'm good with it because I'm paid up until, I thought it was the 3rd. It's actually October 5th, 2028. So I'm good. But that does not remove the fact that this price increase is wrong. Silent Cypher, let's get your thoughts, man.
Yeah. Where to start on this thing, really? So I guess I'll cover it the same way like what Hargeet was mentioning, right? So as a consumer in this situation, it's always best for us. Like it's just like when we buy games, right? Is on a regular basis, a lot of us end up buying the games on a dip. They see it
Hmm.
on a sale. We buy it where we can, save a few bucks. I mean, realistically, anymore, most of the games that we see, if you wait for a couple weeks, if you don't fall into FOMO, you can usually get 10 to 15 bucks off of it pretty quick within a month or two, just depending on what deals are going on. And it's the same thing with Game Pass is if you keep a close eye out on some of the key locations, you've got stuff like CD keys. I don't know if Green Man Gaming's still a thing. Even Amazon and Best Buy still have some of the cheaper prices right now from the previous times. But it's like I was talking to Tim in the chat about is saving up, like finding it and buying it on the dip when you find deals on Game Pass is the consumer, like the strategic consumer thing to do, right? It's a smart consumer thing to do. I get that not everyone can buy and have a mountain of codes like Hargeet. I get that. Like, not everyone's going to be able to back those codes up till 2030. Not everyone's
Yeah,
in that
yes, he's
same situation.
definitely a conundrum.
Yeah, so like, I props to him because not everyone can pull that. I think right now I'm still sitting at about 2 years that I've got paid out for Game Pass, and I just bought on the dip whenever I saw good deals for it. Uh, if you do that, if you look around and you do a little research before you just re-up on your subscription, you can usually see it about 16 to 20 bucks on a regular monthly cost. And so you can save yourself here and there, which now that we know about the increase, here and there is not actually that small. Like 10 to 15 bucks is actually pretty good savings if you can pull it off. But that's kind of where I'm at is I've just been saving up here and there, buying on the dip whenever I can, and just kind of saving it back. So, you go back to what you were talking about. It's like it's not just about me. I'm in a situation where it's like, cool, I'll just keep stacking it and I'll buy on the deal because they can kiss my grits if they think that I'm going to pay them full price. But again, that's being a smart consumer is just not taking what they give you exactly. Like not just saying, yeah, 30 bucks, that sounds great. Like do your research, look around. It's not difficult to find a deal on Game Pass on a regular basis. Now, I'm sure as the prices go up, it will be harder. It'll be more scarce. I know a couple people were saying that some of the CD keys ones were already starting to sell out right after this happened because everyone was like, "Screw that! I want to
Yeah.
buy I want to get the good deals on it." So it might take a second, but again, keep in mind what time we're at in the year. We're almost to Black Friday. You're going to start seeing a handful of different deals come out. So just keep your eyes open. You'll have plenty of opportunities where you can bump it up and you can get it down to that 18 to 20 bucks or whatever a month total, like what you've been paying. Again, it just requires you to kind of look around. It's not a big deal. And it's not like back in the days of people pirating stuff. Like, you're not going through this illegal means to get these things. Like they just have deals and it happens and just keep an eye out for them and you'll get plenty. As far as the price, yeah, if you look at it and you break down what's in there for the 30 bucks, yeah, you could say, okay, it's worth the 30 bucks. For someone like me, I look at the stuff like the Fortnite and some of these other things they added, like the Ubisoft classics.
Yeah.
For that, I'm not interested. So I think the thing about this from start to finish is just like Microsoft likes to do. They do not market or advertise these things well. They do not explain themselves well. And so, you have this poor lady, God bless her heart, coming out and they had her do that 2 or 3 minute video
Terrible.
of the breakdown,
Yeah,
right?
terrible. Feel bad for her. Yeah.
I feel extremely bad for that lady because she was literally handed a gold painted turd and was told, like, hey, sell this. It's the greatest thing. And she's like, but it's a turd. And they're like, well, yeah, but sell it anyways because it's
But it's
fine.
gold.
Yeah.
It's gold painted.
At the end of the day, like a polished turd is still a turd. the way that they did this, the delivery of it was crap. And let's be honest about it. There will be some people that will gain some value out of what was added. But if you look at a lot of the folks that have been on here, a lot of us already have most of the stuff that Ubisoft Classics offers, right? Because again, we buy on the deals, we get stuff when it's cheap. Ubisoft games do not hold their price retention. So I can almost guarantee that the majority of us here in this chat have most of what they're offering in Ubisoft Classic. So that's just not a really good deal for me. Had they put in Ubisoft Plus, sure, like that would make it more understandable for
that
me.
would have been a different conversation. I literally Silent Cypher said that the other day, because for someone like me, I pay for it per month, and it's 19 and change.
Save the $10.
Yes.
Yeah, so like it works to wash itself out if it were Ubisoft Plus. Unfortunately, that wasn't what they gave us.
Right.
That would have been convenient. It would have been a win, I would say, in many ways, for people with multiple subscriptions. But going back to another thing that Hargeet did mention, I think it was a day or two ago. He mentioned the fact that cloud is implemented in the majority of these, with the exception of I think the PC version. So this is another one of those things, right? Like they're pushing cloud, they want to get that out there. So I think the way he phrased it is like Papa Sacha was flipping the bill for cloud previously, and now he's passing that cost on to you. So, you look at it and the majority of them have cloud. And so eventually they were going to charge us for cloud somehow, some way. And it looks like that's maybe part of it. They didn't come right out and say that. And instead of saying like, this is the reason why the price is going up, they tried to add stuff like Ubisoft Classic and the Fortnite stuff to be like, but don't worry, we've got lots of value. Is like, I don't see value in those additions that you added, but like neither here nor there. I'm sure someone cares about those additions. For me, I'm not going to use a large majority of what's offered there. I think it's really cool that, they tout that it's going to be supposedly 75 plus games in a year. Like that's a cool thing. Yeah, I think that's cool. The Fortnite crew stuff, I don't care about at all. Like I'll go in and I'll play that game here and there, but I'm not interested in the Fortnite crew pass. Again, Ubisoft Plus Classics, like cool, but I would argue most of us probably already have all of it. And it seems like there's been a lot of tinkering around with the rewards system in the back end, which they said that you can earn up to like $100 in a given year by using it, and I feel like that's actually less than what you could do previously.
If Fuzzy's shaking his head, Fuzzy, that's Mr. Points over this. He knows.
Yeah, so like you're cutting back on it, but then you're saying again, polished turd theory, right? Like, oh hey, but don't worry, you can get up to $100. Like, dude, I'm pretty sure we could get more than that previously. So like, don't sell it to me and make it sound like it's this consumer friendly deal when we know it's BS. We've been here long enough. The majority of us have been in this ecosystem long enough that the majority of these things just don't really interest most of us. But you look at what's the reasoning as to why they're trying to target some of these things. Well, Fortnite is a games as a service, and we know that they've wanted to catch on to the Fortnite lightning in a bottle, right? Like they wanted to get that and collect it. And so if they get this, like maybe it motivates someone to buy more stuff through Fortnite. It motivates them to keep it higher up on like the games played concurrent. Who knows? Kind of seems like they're trying to focus on some of those, like Call of Duty and Fortnite. Now, RSJ just mentioned in the chat earlier that apparently, based off of, I think, a Charlie Intel post on Twitter, he announced or confirmed that the discounts in Call of Duty, like on the pass and stuff,
I got it right here. Yeah,
just got
talk
removed.
about it, brother. Yeah.
Yeah. So that again, one of those things, like you're taking these things away, and you're like, but this is a consumer friendly thing. In your eyes, maybe, sure. But the thing that comes down to for me, I'll stop rambling here in a second.
No, please. This is a conversational podcast, brother. Talk away. It's good.
The thing that this deal lands for me as is this doesn't come off as someone or as coming from someone who is a gamer, who understands the market, who understands what we're interested in as gamers in general. This comes off very emotionless, very soulless, um, very, very market driven, right? So when I see this deal, all I can think is like Satya had a brain trust idea where he thought he was going to do something amazing. He's like, hey, team, we're going to change this because this feels like a Satya idea to me. This doesn't feel like someone who games. This sounds like someone who lives in rarefied air
Yep.
and doesn't understand how normal gamers work, how normal people work. So he probably pitched this out and was like, hey, you're going to push this. And again, that poor girl had to come walking out with a giant turd on her plate and be like, here you go, guys. But it's great because it's gold.
Yeah.
No, this is not how you do it. Again, like for me personally, I'm going to continue to do what I've always done, which is I will shop on the dip. I
Yep.
will continue to get my subscription upgraded and I'll keep it a 2 to 3 year max and I'll just keep it capped out. Um, I'm not going to pay them $30 because
No.
I don't see the value in what they're offering for the $30. I think I think 20, yes, 20 is a good spot. I'll take that. That is acceptable to me. Um, Another thing that I did hear some people talking about, shout out to New Legal. I don't know if you've talked to him lately, but I jumped into his show real quick last night just to listen and see what they were talking about. And one of the things he floated was the idea that they've hit the $30 price point, right? So they're going to cut it off there. That's the last price increase we're going to see for a while. I don't think that's how this works at all.
Nope.
I gotta give props to Legal for because he tried to put some good like logic into it.
Oh, he's a
But
good creator. That guy. He's a good content
yeah,
creator. I like New Legal a lot. He's a
yeah,
good dude.
like he was trying to explain it and justify why he thought that was the case. But my thing is like, so his thought was instead of doing like incremental increases, $2 to $3 here and there
Just hit
over
you in
the
the
year,
pocket. Boom. Go.
just hit you on that one, and then you've got a long time before the next up one. I don't see that.
Nope.
I especially given the market, given the climate that we're in right now financially, I don't see that. $30, I don't think is going to be the permanent fixture for the next couple of years. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it go inch up to like $34.99 within a year or two. Um, I I think again, it's a financial greed thing. They're like, well, we're going to add these other things, and it sounds good to us. They don't recognize that it doesn't sound great to the majority of the consumers. Now, you can vote with your wallet, you can change your subscription, you can do all those different things. Hopefully, at some point, they'll get the message. I don't know, though. The person who made this decision, again, doesn't seem like someone who breathes the same air as us or lives the same day as us.
No,
They don't
that's for sure.
understand that this decision wasn't really what we wanted. They're not going to reverse the pricing. Yeah, exactly. Rayoid is like they're not going to reverse the pricing. If anything, we'll see it increase again. Um, and that's why I say buy on the dip. Don't give them the $30. If it isn't a value to you, there's easy ways to find around that. There's no point in paying them for stuff that you don't see as a value. If you decide to take a break from the service for a little bit, like everyone's got to do what they got to do. They got to make up their own minds and determine what is a value to them and what they want to do. Now, again, $360 over a year, right? Like you look at that and you break it down to how many games that actually ends up being in a given year. So you're talking what, like 6 games at like a $60 price point? So even less with the new inflated $70 and $80 price points. It's not a lot of games that covers the cost of a year of Game Pass. So yes, it's still financially not a bad deal if you're buying a lot of the stuff that's there. And I would argue that a lot of the stuff that comes out nowadays is going into Game Pass. So there is money to still save. But again, be a savvy consumer, buy it on the cheap, and save yourself a little extra scratch. Like, just because it's that many games worth for the year doesn't mean you shouldn't get a deal on it. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've talked on about it enough, but just moral of the story: buy on the dip and vote with your wallet. If it's something that's not value for it, then show them that.
Well, look, I'll say this. As Silent Cypher has just mentioned, we are in the holiday part of the year, right? And some holidays bigger than others, and of course, for each person, it's going to be different. Halloween is massive for Fuzzy and Cypher. We celebrate it as well. We decorate our door, we decorate our table, we have fun with it. But the holidays that I'm referring to is, of course, like your Kwanzaa, Christmas, Hanukkah, where you're giving gifts or you're receiving gifts. And we know that one of the biggest shopping days in the world, at least here in the States, is Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and there's a few other ones that they have added. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger because they want to sell you the wares. Most of the online retailers allow you to pay for things using something like Affirm, for instance, which I've used many times, right? If you are someone that wants to remain Game Pass, a Game Pass subscriber, a customer, I would tell you that it is in your best interest to make sure that you never pay Microsoft $30 a month ever. And I am going to go out of my way to make sure that I don't pay them $30. I will never pay Microsoft $30 a month for Game Pass, even though, because I use it as much as I do, it is valuable for me. There is value there. But as a consumer, I refuse to pay $30 a month. And if you are someone that is like me and trying to find the best deal that gives you 3 years worth of Game Pass, where you don't have to worry about it, you simply just play your games and go, right? Go on Black Friday, find yourself a year or 2 years of Game Pass, and instead of taking that out of your bank account, which is going to hurt a lot of people in the pockets, because right now everyone's trying to figure out how they're going to pay for Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa, right? How are we going to give your loved one the gifts? Do a 12-month Affirm thing. Pay $13 a month. $23 a month for 12 months. So yeah, it's going to be a $200 investment, but it's not going to hurt you in the pocket where it's coming right out of the bank. I mean, there are ways to do it, and there are services like formerly CD Keys. It's now called Loaded. There's Aniba. There's a bunch of other ones that you can go to and go find the deals. If you are someone that has a card for Target, and you can save 5% even on the cards. So go and buy they're still $20 a month. Go get it for $20 a month. Buy minus 5%, and you're not paying the $90 because eventually there are going to be $90 cards on those racks for 3 months of Game Pass, which is just crazy to think about. There are ways. Please continue, Silent Cypher.
No. So one of the things I keep seeing in the chat, and like I get it. If you don't agree with my take on it, that's fine. I totally get it. Again, everyone's going to do what is most beneficial to them. I see a lot of people that are trying to play the, oh, well, this guy's a broke boy type of thing, or like, oh, $10 a month, oh, God forbid. Like, dude, that's fine. But again, it's not a matter of the $10. It's a matter of, am I using what you're adding to it for that extra $10?
Yeah.
I personally don't see value in the Ubisoft Classic stuff, and I don't see value in the Fortnite stuff. I haven't played Fortnite for a couple of years now. So for me, it's not worth that extra $10 a month. Can I afford it? Sure. That's not the question, though. It's a question of, is it a value? And when I look at it at the moment, that's not a value to me. So as a savvy consumer, just like what Boom was mentioning just now, I will find it when it's on discount, and I will not pay them for that extra $10. Why? Because again, it's not a value for me. Could I afford it? Sure. Could I go just buy the games full price? Sure. That's fine. But again, it's about being a savvy consumer, and it's about determining what's a value to you.
No, great point. So listen, I just want to, before I hand over the microphone to poor Fuzzy Velvet has been sitting back and just waiting to pounce. I want to bring up that tweet. And this is more salt in the wound, folks. So Charlie Intel, who I like a lot, I've been following Charlie Intel for quite some time. And now being in like super into Call of Duty, I love it because they always get the hot information. Well, here's what Silent Cypher was talking about. And shout out to Ray Oid in the chat who actually brought this up. So Ray, thanks so much for being here, brother. I super appreciate it. What Ray Oid was talking about was this tweet from Charlie Intel 12 hours ago, folks. I didn't even see this. I literally just found it in my feed. Xbox has removed the 10% discount that Xbox Game Pass Ultimate members could get for the add-on content for Call of Duty, including removing the discount on Call of Duty points and Black Cell as part of the changes to Game Pass this week. Again, folks, this story just continues to get worse. It's just worse every other hour. And this is why the bigs have gone into the bunker, and you're probably not going to hear from them at least for a week. And ultimately, I understand why, but I think it's a bad message. I think someone that has met and spoken to Phil, Sarah. I haven't had a chance to meet Matt Booty, but I've spoken to Aaron 100 times. Aaron's a great dude. I wish they were out in front of this. I really do. I don't know what they could say. I mean, what ultimately anyone is wanting is a reverse engines moment, like they did with Xbox Live Gold when they tried to charge $240 a year and everyone revolted. I was hoping that we would get at least some sort of a, hey, listen, we've heard you. We're working on trying to make it more affordable. And, when we have more information, we'll come back to that. Maybe they raise it $2 instead of 10. Maybe they raise it $3 instead of 10. Maybe even $5 instead of 10. And at $5, I still think it's egregious, but at least we're listening. Fuzzy, before I hand you over the microphone, Silent Cypher had made mention about a podcast trying to break down that this is the one-shot moment for Xbox, meaning that they were going to hit you with this $10 increase or a 50% increase and be like, okay, we're going to pump the brakes for the next 5 years. Why I have concern, you folks, you're going to be like, hey, Boom, you kind of said it already, but I got to say it again, just based on what Silent Cypher said. I said during the primetime episode with Hargeet and Keasante, I said, let's just stop and forecast 2026, right? So they increased the value, they increased the price of Xbox Game Pass in 2025, and they had a bombastic year, 12 games. By the time this year is done, they'll have put out 12 first-party games, and I will say that it's probably the best year in Game Pass history. That is arguably there's not even a question. And I say, let's forecast 2026, ladies and gentlemen. You have 6 games, 6 first-party AAA bombs right off the bat. Here's Forza Halo, all new games, AAA bombs, right? You have Fable. You have Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4 in November, and you're probably going to have Clockwork Revolution. Those are 6 AAA bombs. And I said, what's to say that October 1st of next year, right before all of the bigs come out, whether that be Fable, whether that be Forza Horizon 6, Modern Warfare 4, whatever they say for the last couple of months of the year, that they don't say, okay, we are now raising Game Pass to $39.99 because you're getting all this value. Look at all these games. Look at all these games you got. Right? Who's to say? That's my one concern, is if they did a 50% increase in a snap of a fingers with no warning, the entire community was broadside by this thing. And it was done in the most ugliest of way. And again, I have to go right back to what Silent Cypher said about this poor woman that got out there for 3 minutes and 45 seconds, and they threw her to the wolves. The wolves. They really did. That was, as good as Romper Room Time, that video. In fact, it actually pissed me off even more watching it. And it's not her fault. This was her job. They sent her out. They literally sent her out to get slaughtered. Shame on Xbox for that, man. That video should have been done by Sarah or Phil or somebody. One of the bigs should have been in front of that camera, not this poor woman. Fuzzy, let's get your thoughts on some of the recent happenings. Any additional thoughts of overall? Because you've had some time to sit on it. I know you were on with Mav the other night, and you had some really good thoughts. Let's get your opinions.
All right. So I'm going to explain my approach with Game Pass over the past 6 or 7 years or so, or whatever it came out in 2017. As someone that's worked in retail, I never going to pay full price. Like, if I can find a way to get a discount, even funny story, I've worked at Best Buy for the holiday because I remember what the discount used to be for employees years ago when my wife worked there. I did it for the holidays. Come to find out, the margins are nowhere near what they used to be. Back in the day, Sony used to be like 50%
Wow.
off of what the retail was. That's what the employees could get the Sony products for. Well, because of the race to the bottom as far as Samsung and a lot of like the TCL TVs and things, margins are between 5 and 15% on a lot of that stuff, or at least that's what they give their employees. So the discount wasn't all that great, but I still wound up saving a good amount, just working that holiday stint because I was looking to replace all the TVs in the house at one sitting. But I say all that to say I'm probably part of the problem why they're doing this adjustment on pricing. Like since day one of Game Pass, I got it free with my Xbox One X, and I think I paid them as far as from a monthly standpoint $1.09 or something because I kept on adding like the free week or whatever or 7 days that you would get with certain games or certain controllers. And then I realized that they started having it where you could use Microsoft Rewards points. Well, I make it a morning routine when I drink my coffee and have you know, my breakfast and stuff like that to go and do the searches, start up Forza Horizon 5 for a bit, play it for like 15 minutes, play solitaire on the computer while I'm doing some searches and answering quizzes and stuff. So I've been earning Microsoft Rewards points to the point where I think I've earned somewhere around 3 million points from 2017 ish up to now, and have pretty much redeemed 2 million of them. Now, I did that because, like I said, I don't like paying full price. And when I had the boys on Game Pass as well, one I could game share with, but since they're twins and they each had their own Xbox, I still had to pay for at least one subscription. So if I could get a couple extra cards, hand him the card so he could also be on, online for free and so forth. And then when we got their computers, it was like, well, they play more on their computer than on their Series S's. So switched it over to PC Game Pass to kind of save some money and save some points and stuff. So I'm probably part of the problem because I think in total I bought 3 cards from Target once when they were at a deep discount, and that's all the money I've given them. I've given them a lot of my time because, as some people will say, time is money. So spent a lot of time getting those Microsoft Rewards points, but in the end of the day, that doesn't fill their coffers. So if I'm to be the blame, so be it. But I encourage everybody, even though you can't use Microsoft Rewards points directly for Game Pass. You can use it towards gift cards, and as a few people have made mention, places like Sam's Club and stuff have had gift cards where get $100 for $80, so you basically get $20 for free if you're going to spend money with Xbox anyway. I always encourage looking for those deals, whether it's you know I know nobody wants to ask for Game Pass for Christmas as far as gift cards, but things along those lines. Like if you find a sale on them, it's probably worth picking up to add to it. And much like Boomin said earlier, I used to keep it where it was always 36 months, and like as of July, I kind of laxed. I had enough points up until October, but I should have known better because they had that revenue thing that they talked about with Game Pass making $5 billion and it's profitable, and then there was an announcement there was going to be a sale on things in the Microsoft Rewards store. And they've had that on occasion where that's a lot of times where I'll cash in my points and get even more of a break because I think it was like 28,000 points as opposed to 36,000 points for 3 months. So I was like, well, maybe I'll wait and see if I can go ahead and get two things at 3 months and just, add the one and then sit on another one or something along those lines. But I should have known that they were going to do some sort of shenanigans as far as adjusting the points amounts that it requires to redeem, or that you will need to redeem, as well as pulling Game Pass. And they started seeming a little sketchy with pausing some of the search timing and stuff like that in September, or maybe it was like around August time. So I've been watching and waiting to see when something like this would happen. But as you've heard me say before, Microsoft reports points. It was the way to go, and that's what really took care of all of my Game Pass subscription all the way up to July of 28. So I hope if you can still stack, buy the cards at 20 or buy the cards at just below 60, and pile those up if you can. I understand that's not feasible for everyone, but if you can, do so. Otherwise, deal with either the 30 or maybe scale down. Like if the day ones aren't as much of a draw, but you play a lot of the other games that they add, because being a grazer, as far as playing a lot of the stuff that they add in there, whether it's some of the indies or maybe it's a few months later after a big release of a game that you were on the fence on getting day one, and now it's in the service. I think that might be the way to go. Yeah, nobody likes to downgrade. If you've been living with a Cadillac, you don't want to pick up a Chevy Volt or Cavalier or something later in life. But at some points, you have to adjust to what you're comfortable with. And if you're comfortable with the 30, more power to you. I'm kind of comfortable with the 30, but I'd rather not spend the 30 if I can use points, and that's what I'll continue to do. Um, when it gets to the point where I can no longer earn enough points to satisfy the subscription to the extent that I have or have done over the years, then I'll make adjustments accordingly. And some of that might wind up being the merging of playing more stuff or buying more stuff on Steam, which I've kind of done ever since I got my Steam Deck. So it's like I have a blend of access to these PC games that now, with the way they're doing their full screen Windows slash Xbox mode on the handhelds, your saves are like before. You used to have to know what folders the save files were in. Now Microsoft makes it easier on these PC handhelds to be able to kind of merge them. So if you have a game on Steam and it's in Game Pass, and you have more progress on Game Pass, you can transfer it over to your Steam one, or vice versa. So they are making things more homogenous, I guess you could say, to some extent, which doesn't bode well for them. Which the big thing I've been thinking of, and I don't know if it's they have a knack for bad timing. The thing to me is with them recently announcing or having the pre-orders and being able to release this Xbox Ally, I think this was the worst timed move, because what would have been better, at least in my opinion, and yes, I know I'm not a CEO of a $1 trillion company, but to me, if you have this device, and while it's not your own device, it is marketing your brand, go ahead and let that go out there in the wild. Keep PC Game Pass the same price for a while, and then let the rumors start swirling about, well, maybe day and date goes away, but watch people stack and jump into the service. Like if you dogpile into the service, you're getting more people into the door, which that's the main thing that they want. And even if they're getting a discount, you'd rather have the numbers as opposed to people canceling and having fewer numbers to rely on as far as recurring revenue and stuff. But to me, this is ill-timed. Let the Xbox Ally go out there. I know pricing wasn't quite what we had expected. There's a lot of other factors out there. Some of it greed, some of it tariffs, some of it mix of both. But all in all, they could have probably, especially after the $5 billion announcement as far as profitability, they could have probably waited a month or two, get more people in the door, say, hey, there might be some changes in in the first of the year, and let everybody get the stuff before the holidays or during the holidays, get it under the tree, stack up the service as best they can, which will, really, you boost that quarter for them during the holidays, which most companies love. And then when they hit them with the higher price, that will be only for the new guys that didn't take part in stacking their subscription, because nothing works better than this rush to demand. Like the one thing I have learned from retail and automotive and stuff like that, when it's the last one on the shelf, or beat the prices, like the same thing with the going away of the electric tax break on vehicles. Oh, it ends in September. A lot of people rushed and got cars in July and August. Like if you were on the fence on getting that, electric car, and you hear that the things end in September, you're more than likely going to take that extra step to go ahead and get that vehicle before you run out on the rebates that you would be entitled to otherwise. So something along those lines would have probably been a better fit, but I understand why they did it. Business is business. They did take a $4 hit per share. I don't. I know some people are speculating. Oh, that'll make Satya. No, $4 is nothing. Especially, and I hate to say this, I think they're about $40 to $50 inflated as far as their price. But then that's the market in general. I don't think we're going to get a bubble pop anytime soon. But $4 is while it's nothing to sneeze at, it's not enough for them to be in panic mode. Now, if it was a $40 drop, then there would be a different story. But I don't think, even if everybody under the sun on Xbox canceled their subscription and sold their devices, I don't think that would affect it $40 a share. That's just the percentage of what Xbox is to the rest of Microsoft. So it is what it is. But for those that can continue to subscribe to Game Pass, more power to you. Continue doing so. Get as many discounts as you can. Save your money where you can. Spend your money how you want. I'm not going to be the one to tell you how to spend your money, but I will give you pointers on how to save money if I can. But outside of that, I can understand people being upset. I mean, I'm sort of upset at the point that this feels like it's just pure greed at this moment. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's other things that are factoring in the background. Like, this would make more sense if games went to the full $80 and $90. Like if $80 and $90 games was a norm, maybe this increase wouldn't seem so bad. If more people were, or I'll put it this way: if it was Ubisoft Plus Premium as opposed to Classics, I don't know if as many people would complain. Yeah, like for me, most of the classic stuff I already own. Ubisoft Premium would have been a little bit of a different story, because then that would have
Yes.
made more sense, and I'd be saving $10 in comparison to buying it separately. But
Yeah.
I don't know. To each their own as far as what they see value in. I still see some value in it, especially if you look at $70. That's 5 games or so. If games go to 80, that's like 4 games at that point, kind of deal. So unless you're buying like some of the smaller titles, if you're buying more than 10 games a year, mix of AAA and AA and stuff, there's still some value to be had in this service at the ultimate tier. And there's value in the lower tiers as well, especially considering cloud. But I don't know. I'm comfortable with it for now, but I don't believe that this is their final stop as far as pricing. I wish we could get something like that in writing, but I know how business is and things change, on the regular. So a $4 or $5 bump in a year or two could be possible. I do want to point out something that somebody may mention in the chat, and it has me kind of wondering as well. They did make mention of 75 day and date games, which we did get a lot of day and date games between first party and even some third party titles this year. I haven't counted, but I don't think it was anywhere near 75. So
No.
I'm wondering what next year's Game Pass looks like, if they're talking about a full 75 day and dates. Are we going to get more third party support from some of the bigger players in the industry? Like, I'm not saying we get GTA 5 or GTA 6 or anything like that, but maybe we get something along the lines of Mafia, New Country, or something along those lines. But we'll have to see. But in the meantime, vote with your wallet and enjoy what you enjoy. play as many games, enjoy this hobby for what it is.